Looking to boost your financial modeling skills? Check out the programs at Financial Modeling Institute, the world's only financial modeling accreditation body. Learn more by visiting fminstitute.com today.
Welcome to Compound Insights, a podcast by CFA Society New York. I'm your host, Rob Rowan. Today we're talking about a growing sector of wealth management. There's a large number of firms that are using AI to leverage their outsourced businesses to wealth managers. Now, this could be interesting to CFA Society New York members as a potential service or as an investment on the back end of these firms, because I think there's some interesting opportunities. We're talking to one exceptionally forethoughtful person, Yelena Melamed. She is the co-founder of Catchlight, which uses AI to parse a massive amount of your firm's prospect data and narrow those down into leads that matter for wealth advisors and other firms. Now, prior to founding Catchlight, she spent over 20 years at Fidelity in many roles from analyst to product management. She got her BS from Northeastern University. So welcome to the podcast, Yelena.
Pleasure to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about Catchlight's business so that the people listening to this podcast can frame the topic and your further comments?
Absolutely. So we work with a very diverse set of firms, everything from kind of a single advisor shop all the way to larger enterprises. And what we really do is we help advisors grow more efficiently and effectively by really three things. One is enriching the profiles of leads they work with data to help organize and qualify the prospecting funnel with which they're working. We then layer in analytics and AI like our Catchlight score, which is trained on a growing set of conversions for paid advice to allow wealth management firms to really prioritize those in their pipeline that looks most similar to those that they already are doing business with or new segments they want to get into. With then a filtered kind of a qualified list, we create efficiencies and then we help with effectiveness of outcomes, meetings booked, and conversions made with offering a connected experience to next best action because data is just the platform from which you start to make decisions. And so in our case, it's prioritizing content out of existing digital marketing libraries or creating new from scratch, all the way to offering relevant articles to enable personalized engagement.
Right. So, from a business perspective, tell me if this is fair. If you were a business owner, you'd be looking at this as a time saver for marketing, an improvement of sales, and probably also an improvement of servicing.
You got it.
Okay. The because I just like to frame it in within the business ownership realm. Um, so, one of the things that I thought was exceptionally interesting in finding out what I could about how you use AI and something of a model in there is you've made some assumptions along the way in building it. And those assumptions may and functions that Catchlight provides may need to change as we're facing an evolutionary change in what clients want when this massive wealth transition happens. And there are also other evolutionary factors that change preferences for clients. So, do you have a plan for how to change that, and how have you thought through the evolution of the market in the future?
Rob, that's a great question. And it's been the premise of what we thought about as of the time that we founded the business. Our business is obviously data based, and a lot of it is backed by the insights that we offer. Most of them are ML trained models. And so, as we thought about them, and I'll use the Catchlight score as an example, they are learning models. So, as preferences change in a statistically significant way, our model reacts. So we want to be sensitive on kind of what are the most current trends. And so we gather conversions for paid advice as a data point that feeds that model. And we're really observing what is changing over time. But I think maybe you're asking even a more comprehensive question is, what do these new generations of clients expect on the servicing side. So you're absolutely right, and I think it echoes a lot of our hypotheses, which we've tested in terms of outcomes. Does more personalized engagement lead to better outcomes? And the answer is simply yes. And so for us, as we think about new generations coming into money or the passing of the money, we tend to think about them as, what are consumers expecting? The consumers are expecting what echoes more of the modern service models that we see from, say, the Amazons of the world. And what they expect is personalization. They expect their advisors to react to them and serve them in the same way they've seen and have been served by these more modern service offerings, and personalization is key to that.
Okay. So, I mean, this is exceptionally interesting to me because there's been a sort of divergence in the way that servicing works. So, there has been the growth of Amazon, which is the one to many model. And then there is the growth, we'll say, look at the way that the expansion of the Chinese tourist completely reconfigured tourism in Southeast Asia. And that is a one-to-one model. So, so could you talk about what you think that clients are going to expect in sort of the range of that in the future, more in those contexts, or in, tech devices or whatever you like?
Yeah, I think in that case, I'll separate the what from the how. The what, consumer expects to be treated like an individual, but the how you get that done as an advisor, especially trying to scale your time and your business, I think can differ. And so, what we enable is a kind of that approach in personalization when it comes to figuring out what's the concentration in your pipeline or in your book. Did you not make an observation maybe that you have a lot of medical professionals or a lot of business owners? What can you and could you be doing for them as you think about reaching out? But then individually, let's call it Dr. Smith, right? In that medical professional sense, is how does he or she find value from you in whatever your kind of next best action reach out methodology is? And I think that's the what, right? To me, we enable both the group, but also the individual. And I think for us, it's really about how do we support segment, which is sales and kind of trying to grow your business is always a numbers game. But how do you allow the individual to feel like an individual in that, and that they matter, and that you have served others like them, and that you know what they might need, and you're the right advisor to potentially support them in that.
Great. That's a very interesting way of thinking about it. I hope the people on the podcast will think about their businesses this way because you don't necessarily have to have a whiz bang thing like Catchlight has to be able to do that. That is something you should be thinking about all the time. Back to Catchlight for a second, the other thing that is evolving right now are privacy rules and regulations around the world. So, as you're looking at expanding Catchlight, is it a business that's scalable to other countries that have different privacy regulations?
I would say that our data and models are scalable, but our focus is the domestic market. And I would say even further than that, our focus is the domestic market and the wealth management space, because we have started with the desire to be really, really focused and very determined in the outcome that we seek and for what audience. And so for us, we are really in the domestic space.
Okay. Are there other things that you're planning for the next steps of Catchlight? Obviously, teaching the model responsibly is one. We talked about, we talked a little bit about, understanding the factors of the clients. Are there other things that you all are focused on, either from the model perspective or from positioning your business perspective?
Yeah, so I think to us, since the beginnings, client feedback has been key. It's both qualitative and quantitative. So you'll find that our product has a lot of feedback loops built in for both advisors, marketers, business owners, small and large, to be able to interact with us and kind of give us the feedback on which we build the product in the future. But for us, it's really key. Three key things that I think about is continuing our strategy to remove friction. So our insights being available anywhere where firms live, do their business from today, as opposed to think about it as a separate platform, is one. Two is broadening our support of the front office functions. So we have a lot of interesting things that are forthcoming over the course of this year beyond kind of what we've had for the past 6 months. And lastly, and we've again thought about this for some time, is evolving our data with more life events and more opportunities to create engagements for advisors in the moments that matter for their consumers.
What kinds of life events are you thinking through? Because you had the big ones on there, retirement, divorce, all that kind of stuff. What other ones are you all thinking about?
I think for us, especially when it comes to the world of advice, it's windfall. We talked a little earlier in the podcast about the great wealth transfer. And so Cerulli estimates something like 84 trillion in money being moved. And there's a number of reasons why, right? There's the passing of the money from generations, but also retirement of advisors. And passing of their books and kind of their clients migrating to other offices for support. to us, it is how does an advisor find the partnership opportunities with someone who is going through some sort of a windfall, including the passing of the money. And there's a lot of nuance around that. So we are constantly scrubbing and re-engineering models in order to fit in some really interesting life events in that theme.
Interesting. All right. Well, I mean, this is fascinating because it's a interesting way of looking at what is, I estimate, 60 or 70% of an average wealth advisor's business. It's sales and servicing, right? It's only less managing the money. It's mostly those things. Yeah. So, well, this is fascinating. So, if you're a member and you're listening to this podcast and you want to hear more of what Yelena has to say, you can log into our website and see her content or comments to our event back in February. And they are live and on there. And if you're not a member and you'd like to see them, please join CFA Society in New York now. Until next time, thank you, Yelena, for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you all for listening in to Compound Insights. I'm your host, Rob Rowan.